Toni Morrison is here. Her novels include The Bluest Eye, Song of Solomon, and Beloved. She has received virtually every major literary prize, including the Pulitzer and the National Book Critics Circle Award. Her body of work was awarded the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1993. Her new novel is called A Mercy. I am pleased to have Toni Morrison back at this table. Welcome.
Thank you.
Congratulations, my dear.
Thank you.
So nice to see you.
Good to be here again.
What shall we say about this? This is somehow called, most people I know think Beloved's your best book. You may or may not believe that.
I think they do think that is my best book.
But you're not necessarily going to agree with them.
I don't agree with them.
You have another choice.
I have another choice.
Which is?
Well, actually, jazz is the best.
It's the best in terms of?
The obstacles I set for myself. And the writing, the concept.
So what if they all got wrong? They just like the story of Beloved?
No, Beloved is important in other ways. It's a story about slavery.
Right.
And focuses on just a small group of people. And that's an attractive and different kind of story about slavery. So I don't think the population or the readers who prefer it are wrong from a reading standpoint. But you ask me as a writer, and I was telling you that.
You reached higher heights with
jazz.
With jazz.
But the highest...
Do you think? Are you saying that because you're selling this book, or are you saying that because deep inside you think that you've never been better?
In some respects, I've never been better than when I wrote A Mercy. There's some voices in there and some deep and sustained research that I did for years in order to feel that kind of comfort in that landscape and in that environment and with those laws. That was a big thing, because I didn't know, that's virgin territory for me. 17th century, 2 years before the Salem witch trials.
Yeah. So there was what about the experience of getting inside of that?
First of all, I didn't know the landscape. I didn't know what it looked like. I mean, had some paintings and so on. But I had to go to anthropologists and botanists and people to know exactly how tall the trees were. Were there dandelions there or not? Potatoes, or was that later? I mean, you can't say anything unless you know really what was there. And once I felt comfortable in the landscape, then I heard that girl's voice, and she said, "Don't be afraid." And then I was sort of home, free, with her voice. The rest of the work were all the other people.
And some people think this is a prequel to Beloved?
Yeah, it might be. I wouldn't be unhappy with that term. It's earlier than, it's sort of pre-racial, too.
Yeah, that too.
It's before it all got institutionalized, when everybody was for sale and for rent.
Including whites?
Oh, definitely whites. Whites, mixed, everything. And slavery itself was this universal thing. And there was no nation, no empire that did not rest on it, whether it was Egypt or Athens or Moscow or whatever, although they may call them different things, like serfs, etc. But that was common.
What is it, 1659 we're talking about there, right about there?
1670 and then 1690.
It's about a black female child. That's also the same thing as Beloved. Why are you smiling? Because just the recognition, or that's where you go home to, or what?
That's when you're vulnerable and imaginative. It's just a rich field to talk about. I have described older people, Song of Solomon, there were older people, but there's something very attractive about either the vulnerable people that exist in The Bluest Eye, or somebody who's 16, who believes she's thrown away. She's so needy. She needs love. Anything anybody says to her that's a compliment, she just melts. So you take her.
Sounds like me.
Oh, sure. And then she falls in love.
Needy.
Oh, God. You know, it's just terrific. In those circumstances, with a lot of bounty and enormous danger. And she goes out all alone in the woods, in the forest, to find him.
Yeah. Things, I mean, the idea of also of young, especially young women, experiencing everything, finding everything, painting on a blank canvas. I mean, that's really kind of rich stuff, isn't it?
Oh, sure. Absolutely. The whole world is open and threatening at the same time. Yeah. It's just to learn something from that. And whatever the outcome of the narrative, my feeling is it's really happy. Well, not ecstatic, but the point being that she evolves. She's not the same person at the end that she is at the beginning, and she'll never do that again. Everybody changes.
All the time.
All the time. Like the country.
New rivers are always flowing in. We're going to talk about the country, because this is a special time in the country.
Yes.
Our country. And the world.
That's true.
Influenced
right.
by change in America and response to change in America. This was America before it was America, though.
My book?
Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely. When it was in flux, ad hoc, anything could have happened. The Dutch were here, the Portuguese, the Swedes. I mean, everybody was clamoring for space and resources. And it was young and sort of scary, but there was so much promise. And you want to know, what were these people running from? Not the clerics and the merchants, but the ordinary people.
What's the significance of Bacon's Rebellion?
That was one instance in which a kind of people's army got together to overthrow the government in Virginia. It included landed gentry, slaves, whites that were indentured, whites that were free, blacks that were free, 400 of them. And they all got together to get rid of what they felt was an oppressive government, and they did. And they all got caught and hanged, and then things returned to normal. But the interesting thing to me was the laws that were established after.
It began to define racial relations.
Because what they said was, any white can maim or kill any black for any reason. So that poor whites, indentured whites, have a reason to have contempt and feel superior to the blacks. Now that law, which was obviously racial division,
sure,
and making sure that poor whites felt better than poor blacks, that became the theme in other states and survived, these 300-400 years.
Which part survived 300 or 400 years?
The white people, no matter how poor and how degraded and how much contempt was felt for them by the powers that be, were nevertheless tricked into feeling that they were superior to black people.
We'll talk about this later, but do you think we've gone past that now for sure? That we are in a, quote, post-racial time because of the election of Senator Obama?
I'm not sure. It's drifting somewhere differently. I can feel the difference among my students who are just sort of not interested in it.
There was an interesting thing last night on 60 Minutes, a very good piece by Steve Croft, and they put together the people who were there within an hour after the speech in Chicago, accepting, saying the applause, the acceptance speech, so to speak,
right.
After Senator McCain had called and conceded and all of that, and he'd been pronounced the victor. They went back and had these, and they said race never was an issue for them. No. They didn't think about it. They didn't talk about it. That the decision to have Senator Obama make the speech after Jeremiah Wright created a controversy was simply Obama's. That Senator Obama said, I want to talk about this. I want to put it in context. Change my schedule.
But the others didn't want him to.
Exactly. There was an element. They never got to make that point. In other words, it never came to that. He said, clear the decks, I'm doing this. And they said, okay. But they said if it had gone to a meeting and let's discuss it, they would have sort of found lots of reasons not to do it. But that speech went a long way to...
Oh, it's incredible, that speech.
Yeah.
It's just a fantasy.
What's a fantasy?
Racial hierarchy. It's just some dream.
Yeah.
And if you take that fantasy away from die-in-the-wool racists, take it away. Just take it out.
That there is a hierarchy.
And say there's none.
Right.
And then what do they got? Misery.
Right.
And it's much nicer, much safer for them to call people names and feel strongly superior to black people of a generation, of a certain generation, my generation. But
So
these young people,
if you
they're
find
not,
something you're unhappy with yourself and you can call somebody else inferior, then
yeah, it feels good.
it feels better.
Sometimes it's your ecstasy. You get to be violent, you get to be superior, you get to have somebody to look down on. Well, needing all of that is pathetic.
Right. So why are you fascinated by this because you are an African American, because this is a subject that defines?
Well, I sort of
Our
always brushed it
racial
away
history.
because I always believed that people who were like that were somehow deficient morally and sort of intellectually. All my life I thought that. But then I was, reared and I grew up in a very mixed neighborhood. But when I was writing this book, and I thought, let me see what it feels like to be a black female slave without racism. Just take it out. How does that feel? When you have no self-loathing, when people are not looking down on you because you're a slave. That's a class problem.
So you had to go to a point in which that was true.
That's right. When I had to go to a point where the real problem, a place and time in this country where that was true, where the real fights were religious, violent, constructs and trouble, and not whether somebody was black. And when she discovers that her color is problem, it's because of religious things, not racist things. When they look at her and say, they used to call Satan the black man. And when they see this black girl, this particular scene, they think she's Satan's minion because of color.
Religion in this book. Where is it? What do you see it as a kind of divisive institution?
It was both.
Supportive of...
It supported people. Well, there was no real law, Yeah. I mean, there were groups. But there were clerical groups and there were religious institutions, some small, some large. But you could, disagree on any fine point and just go away, all 35 of the families, and make up your own. It was really understood to be a liberty that you could make up your own institution, interpret the Bible you wanted to. Do you baptize at birth? No. You have to wait until somebody's sensible, etc. All these differences. Right. And because it was in a new world, they could be very fierce about it. And I began to understand how extremely important it was for the founders to say there shall be no presidential test about religion, and there must be a separation between religion
Church
and state.
Yeah. When you sat down to write this, and you knew you wanted to explore all this that we've been talking about, was Florence the first character? You began with her.
Yes.
Then you had to fill the rest in.
Yes. She was the first.
And do you see her in your mind?
Oh, yes.
She has a facial construct that you recognize.
Yes, but
she walks and talks and she looks
yes.
and she...
Yes, she has a look and a sound.
And she has a sound, especially a sound.
She has a very clear voice. But I never...
And you hear the voice when you write.
I am the voice sort of when I write.
Right.
But I never describe my characters in great detail because it's like, once you first see, I don't know, Cinderella or Hamlet, if you get a picture of them, then your imagination is cut because that's them. So I want the reader to fill in all those details about how she looked, because then they own it. The reader owns it once he or she imagines it. I don't want to just impose my physical imagination of her on the reader. Just
Do
her
movie
interior
makers ever
life.
get it when they try to...
No.
They don't.
No.
You always refer to her in the first person, present tense.
Yeah, I. Present tense, first person, all the time.
Because she is speaking now.
It just makes it so immediate.
I
am. I think. I'm looking. I can never not have you have me. I mean, she's... She's right. It's very immediate. It's close. She's whispering. And then and she's talking to one person.
Yeah.
Him.
Right.
And then she's really writing.
How does she feel about this free blacksmith?
How does she feel about it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, in the beginning, it's just, she wants to be him. She wants to fall into him. I am live, she says. When our eyes hit, I'm live, as opposed to not live. But she, has to have her comeuppance, as one always does, when you surrender yourself that completely, that totally, that stupidly, to another human being.
There's also a tragic mother-daughter thing here.
Yeah, her mother gave her away, or insisted that she be taken away, but she doesn't know why, which accounts for her, neediness and sense that somebody's always getting rid of me.
Also identity.
Oh, yes. But I didn't want, and Bob and I talked about it a little bit, about whether
Bob Gottlieb, your editor?
my editor, whether she ever learns what Mother really was doing. And I said, no, she can't learn that. She'll never know. She'll never know, because that's what that kind of enslavement is. Her mother was a slave in Maryland. And the big problem of problems, the supreme one, was the separation of family members. She doesn't know what happened to her daughter. And her daughter never learns why her mother, sent her away.
But you thought about giving her a moment of reconciliation.
I thought about it.
And? It
seemed tacky to me in a way. Why?
Too easy.
Easy, violins, roses. Not for me, huh?
No, you don't want to make it easy, do you?
No.
Or too convenient.
Too convenient.
Tying up all the loose ends is too easy.
Right.
Yeah. Has she become your, I look at this all the times we've talked, has she become your favorite character? Or is she just the most recent one is always your favorite?
No, I have a new character. I'm writing another book, dear. I'm just so excited.
Are you really? Already?
Already.
So when did the new character come into being?
I've got an image.
Yeah.
In my head.
A woman?
No.
A man?
A man. A war.
African-American man?
Yes.
An older man? A younger man?
In between.
A powerful man?
Sometimes.
A vulnerable man?
Occasionally. A man. Come on, they make mistakes. They're powerful, they're wonderful, they're tender.
Right.
He's in his 30s. He's okay.
Why choose 30s?
It's good. It's a high.
So what's going to happen to him?
Oh, come on. I give you the pencil. You write.
I'll write your story for you. Right. So, what's interesting to me when you're talking about you and Bob Gottlieb, so what part of the editing process with you, and he's one of the great editors.
Oh, yes. For me, he is.
And you've been together for a bunch of years. He literally says to you, let's work this out. I don't think this character would do that, or would hear that, or would go there.
No, he's mostly language.
It's only language, I see.
Mostly language.
It's not about character development, or it's not about, this is not real.
No. Sometimes he says, this is too thin. You have to do more.
Fatten it up.
Yeah.
Or put some meat on these bones.
I don't know enough about this. So he reads it the first time. Second time, I think I'm done. It's beautiful. It's brilliant. And he's, very detailed. But also, more important to me, he responds like a reader. Mm-hmm. So if he's uneasy, he may not have the solution. And I may not either. But I take his uneasiness seriously, because it's a sign that something's awry.
Is he your first read or someone else?
He's the first serious read.
But is there someone who's in between your editor and you?
Well, in the past, I've given him to non-literary, non-critical people, just to see if they want to fall asleep or do they want to stay awake.
Now, tell me how you write. Do you write page by page, or do you want to know exactly what's going to happen to these characters, and then you come back and refine and refine and refine? 32 rewrites is. I
used to try that. I write what I know, what's there, what I see, and what I hear. I don't always know where to place it. I usually know the beginning and the end. I don't always know the middle. Who's going to appear, what's going to happen.
And new people appear that you didn't necessarily know.
That's right.
But you have to know where the journey is starting and where it's going to.
Oh, yeah. The end is what the book is about.
Really?
Yeah. And so I have to know that, because it starts as a very abstract idea. I'm saying to you something like, I want to see what it's like before racism was connected inextricably to slavery.
Right.
Suppose I took that part out, but you still had black people, right?
Yeah.
What was that feel like?
Oh, yeah.
So that was strange. So I wanted a person who was a slave and was black and et cetera, among other slaves, white, black, Native American.
Do all novels for you begin with a question?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, pretty much, all of them.
I wonder what. I wonder who. I wonder
why?
what if. I wonder why. Why is the best.
Why is good. Why'd they do that?
Yeah. More so than how. It's always why is always better.
I wondered when I read an article that there were all these black towns in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And I was looking at a picture of them, and they were all very fair, light-skinned blacks. And one town had sent a number of black-skinned blacks,
right,
away and said they couldn't come in their town. And I was wondering why.
Why did they do that?
Yeah. And what did that sent away group feel? If you've been a slave and they've been a slave and it's after Reconstruction, you have some experience with political power, you go away, you find a black town, a black, former slave town, and they say to you, you can't come in. So what do you do? I'm not so interested in the ones who said no as what happened to the ones that were told no, and that was the beginning of paradise for me.
The familial bonds do not last in this novel.
I'm not so sure.
You think they do?
I think something. I think they do.
Something
some
is
of them,
still there.
Yeah, some of that. There's a character in there that is so utter and completely and nobly loyal. Lena.
Now, were you thinking about somebody when you created Lena? Or were you just thinking about a character
the
you wanted
idea of her.
in there? You wanted somebody in the novel who was like her.
Oh, yeah, I needed her. She's strong.
You have said that the novel's relationships here are meant to show the dangers of American individuality.
Yeah, it's that solitary, that false idea of the solitary lone.
But I mean, the idea of loneliness is sort of powerful within you, isn't it? Is it?
Loneliness.
Yes.
Yeah, it's sort of.
Or is that true with all novelists?
I don't know. I have to think about that. I do like to figure out what happens when you don't have any of your normal support system.
Yeah.
How brave are you now?
Would you know loneliness?
Oh, sure. At least the last. Now that my children are out of the house.
Right.
Yeah. But I sort of like it,
At this stage.
I guess loneliness, I guess the better word is
solitude. Why do you like it? Because
I don't have to talk.
Like this. But you said here that there is a sense of deep loneliness in so much American fiction. That's my point.
There is. Oh, yeah, there is.
That is a real part of American.
Yeah. It's hard.
What novelists have written about.
They do write about solitude and being aliens and exiles and foreigners. And remember, there was a whole school of the alienated hero. Right after World War II, everybody was suddenly all by himself. They hadn't reconstructed that community. Everything was in doubt. And I think now it's less so because we don't have to be lonely anymore because we have cell phones and we can walk down the street and we're not alone because we're on the phone. And there's so much stuff to buy, so you don't have to feel lonely anymore.
Yeah, but see, I mean, my only point about all that is that I don't think that cures loneliness for a moment.
Of course not. Of course not. It just is another mask.
It just has something to do.
It doesn't do anything.
It doesn't do anything. It has nothing to do about the essence of where you are in yourself.
It has nothing to do with the inside job.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Politics again. Back. I mean, there is. What is your hope for Senator Obama as president? What is your hope that we have gotten? What did you feel when you realized he was the President of the United States, since everything you have written has touched on race?
Yeah, I felt some exhilaration.
Some?
Yeah.
Why just some? I mean,
Well,
this is...
I don't feel anything completely.
Oh, why
Come on.
not? Hallelujah, Jesus Christ, you know.
I don't want to put too much weight on that.
Yeah.
You know where my real feeling...
You know what, on religion, I just said that, but you don't want to put too much weight on...
One man. This is an exceptional man. He's
Right.
not an African-American. He is that particular one. Yeah. You know, he's really specific in his talents and his abilities and his intelligence and what I call wisdom. But the reason the exhilaration is maybe 10% still out there is because this is our responsibility. This is our...
Our mean all of America.
All of America. Look, this was a brave thing. This is democracy
brave
being
for
brave.
America?
America, the whole country. I hate thing. This is a strong, clear-headed. We're not cowards anymore. We have been beaten with fear and fear and fear. Somebody's going to get us. Somebody's going to hurt us. Somebody's going to eat us up. So that we're just terrified. Terrified. Underneath that terror is cowardice. And so now we're finished with it. Doesn't mean nothing bad's going to happen. It just means we'll be alert and tough. And we don't need to just run around shooting people all over the world. There's something else that's stronger than that. I think he said it somewhere. The strength of our ideals and our ideas.
He's also said it ought to be about our hopes and not our fears.
Precisely. That takes a lot of courage these days. Look, we're in a mess in this world. I mean, real mess.
Yeah. But I think this was about, I really do think it was about him because he came there at that moment and had a lot of interesting things about him. Brains, youth. I mean, and all of a sudden he gave people a reason to go to a place that they wanted to be in the best.
Yeah, they wanted to be there.
In their best instincts, wanted to be there.
Well, that's what those.
And he got them there over the process of a time, and was enabled them to, one by one, transcend whatever boundaries they might have been, having to do with fear, having to do with he's too young, he's too inexperienced, having to do with he's too liberal, having to do with he's too
not American,
he's too far, all that. Each one of those things just dropped by. And as they did, people found something they wanted to find, which is belief.
Yeah,
in the
real
possibility. In the possibility of having change. All this gives us is the possibility
and now
of
we
having
can do
change, across the board, right?
Yes.
Are you going to the inauguration?
No.
Why? This is not going to happen.
There's too many people.
Oh, come on. This is not going to happen.
What's not going to happen? I'm not going to go? Go?
Yeah, you're going. You've got to go.
You think?
I do. I really do.
I don't have a dress.
I'll get you a dress. I'll get you a dress. What kind of dress do you like?
Said that publicly.
I will. I'll get you a very fine dress. A very fine place for you to stay.
Now you're doing to me what I did to you. Remember, I invited you to Stockholm when you didn't come.
I know, and I have regretted it.
You should.
You are wonderful, and I thank you for coming, and I thank you for this book. And look at this great picture by Timothy Greenfield Sanders. Look at that. Isn't that great?
Isn't that lovely?
You like that, don't you?
In my youth.
Light's great. Come on.
It was just a couple years ago.
Stop it. I just saw you the other night at the Literary Lions.
Oh, yes. That was fine, wasn't
Sitting up there proudly before all those literary types. The book is called Mercy. Now, John Updike reviewed it.
He did in the
New Yorker magazine, pretty prestigious journal right there.
Yeah, it's very thorough.
And here's what you said, because it wasn't all flattery.
No.
By Martin.
Updike?
No, exactly. But you know what you said, which was the very smart thing to say? You said, I'm honored that a man of his...
He's a writer.
He's a writer. And so if a writer wants to come judge my work, I'd rather have that than an idiot come judge my work. Right?
Yeah, and he's not doing A, B, C, D.
Exactly right.
Yeah. I like that.
Toni Morrison, A Mercy, a novel.